All right, good evening and welcome to our public meeting this September 16th at 6:30. Can I get a mover and a second to open? Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang, that we open at 6:30 to call the chair. All those in favor? Carried. We'll go right to new business, or sorry, declaration of pecuniary interest. Do we have any? Councillor McDonnell?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the company I'm employed with has been engaged by Mr. Lehrman, so I'll step away from the table on this one.
Thank you. All is good on pink. Great. Don't skip the approval of agenda. Okay, approval of agenda. I did kind of jump out of order there. Thank you for that. So approval of the agenda, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. All those in favor? Carried. So we'll go to new business. 4A, zoning bylaw 0424, Lerman Decor Incorporated. Are you taking this one, Ms. Haley?
Before we get started, I'm going to read some required wording under the Ontario Planning Act. Any person may attend the public meeting and or make written or verbal representation either in support of or in opposition to this proposed zoning bylaw amendment. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Township of South Glengarry before the bylaw is decided upon, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Council of the Township of South Glengarry to the Ontario Land Tribunal, also known as the OLT. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of South Glengarry before the bylaw is decided upon, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the OLT unless there are reasonable grounds to do so. So we have one zoning amendment public meeting proposed this evening, and this is for a property that's located at part of Lot 38, Concession 7, being Part 1 on Reference Plan 14R 724 and Part 1 on Reference Plan 14R 1013 in the geographic township of Lancaster, now in South Glengarry, and is located at 4451 County Road 34. This is a map of the subject property. You can see that it's located on the east side of County Road 34, south of Green Valley, north of the Brownhouse Corners. The purpose The purpose of this meeting, the purpose of this amendment is to rezone the subject property from agricultural to rural exception 21 to permit the following uses in addition to the permitted uses in the rural zone already. The following uses would be a warehouse distribution center, including a professional or business office, and also including a retail store. All other applicable provisions of zoning bylaw 3809 as amended shall continue to apply. The subject property is currently designated rural district in the county official plan. So I'm going to jump around in my presentation here for a minute. Many of you may remember that there was a building there for many, many years. So I'm going to confuse myself by getting out of order. So this building may look familiar to some. This building had a variety of uses over the years, and the most recent use was a company by the name of Lerman Decor. Lerman Decor occupied this building for approximately 7 years. If I understand the business correctly, and Mr. Lerman can correct me later if he wants to, they are craft type home design, home decor products that he would distribute to other retail stores. And he also, at the time when this business was there, had a retail center that allowed individuals locally to come in and shop at his store. So this building was removed in 2009, demolished by Mr. Lerman, where he relocated his business to Alexandria. He's now looking at coming back to South Glengarry on this spot as he continued owning the land. There was a few planning changes that had occurred. So previously, Mr. Lerman's building was here. It was zoned accordingly, it was taxed accordingly, but the province changed that land to be prime agricultural land. So when we redid our 2009 zoning bylaw, and after the building was demolished, that land became zoned agricultural. So Mr. Lerman didn't continue to benefit from the previous zoning. Mr. Lerman comes to our office and wishes to rebuild and learns that his zoning is now agricultural. However, in our 2018 official plan, the province changed that area of land to rural district. With the provincial change, it allows Mr. Lerman then to apply for a zoning amendment that would then conform to the official plan. So that's working for him positively, subject to an approval for the zoning amendment. So I'm going to go back where I was in the presentation, but I just wanted to give you that context or that history. So as I mentioned, the subject property is designated rural district, And the applicant is now proposing to build or rebuild a 40,000 square foot warehouse, including an office inside the warehouse and a retail store inside the warehouse. The applicant has provided a site plan to us. It's a very preliminary site plan, and the reason for that is because they're just in the initial stages of going through the zoning amendment and the development process. But you will see on this site plan, the area that's highlighted in black is where the proposed structure will be. You'll also see, I know it's very difficult to read, I apologize when it's not zoomed in. But in the area at the top right corner where they shows the green would be the septic system, and then there's space for parking as well as loading and unloading. We now have a variety of, I'm sorry, we'll address our questions at the end of the presentation, thank you. We now have a variety of photos to show you what the site looks like today. And it looks like this because, as I mentioned, demolition occurred in 2009. So I'll just go through these photos. You'll see that there's existing concrete left on the site, and there's obviously some overgrown brush and trees, simply because it hasn't been, it's been vacant for several years. This house that you can see is a house that's located to the south of the subject property. It's not on the property. And this would be their existing entrance off of County Road 34. And again, just another location. This is looking north. And then this is a street view image of the property currently. And again, this is an image that Mr. Lerman provided to us of what the property used to look like several years ago. So to date, we have received a written comment from a member of the public raising concerns from the neighbors in the area, primarily around incompatibility, maybe increased traffic, noise, hours of operation, etc. I'm going to read through portions of this email that we received at 3:21 p.m. today. So the individual explains that they're not able to attend the meeting this evening, as they're not physically able to get here. But this individual, by the way, is by the name of Linda Selkirk. So Linda has informed us that she's talked with some of her neighbors and has some questions, but overall can't see that something of this nature or size would be appropriate in a quiet residential area. As well, based on what little we know, there would be trucks in and out of the proposed warehouse distribution center. As it is, gravel trucks make a racket, leave potholes for passengers, vehicles, etc. The noise would likely be exacerbated also at times of the day and night. Professional business offices would add extra traffic, and the children in the area already deal with high traffic and often speeders. Logically, workers there would have a hike to Lancaster or Alexandria to get lunch, gas, etc. Retail stores might have a place, but given that the Brown House remains empty and an eyesore as such, and the former convenience store in Green Valley remains almost dormant, except the post office, I think those and other locations would be much better. People in those areas are used to extra noise, parking, etc. We don't know the nature of the retail store, as people respond to a general store would be quite different than yet another cannabis outlet or clientele attracted. So then she goes on with a variety of questions, and then also indicates that other members of the public are unable to attend, but there is a member of the public here this evening that will speak to this, and we'll open up an opportunity for questions later. So I'm sharing this with you so it's just part of the public record. There are questions in here that we will be responding to by email to that a member of the public. We also circulated the application to the United Counties of SD&G Transportation Department, and we've not received comments as of yet. However, we will expect to receive comments. And this application will be subject to a decision of council. A staff report with a recommendation will be brought to council for a decision in the near future. And that's it for my presentation this evening, Mr. Mayor. We do have the owner applicant here, Mr. Lerman, who's sitting at the table, so I'll leave it to you.
Is there anything further that you would like to add to that presentation? And just make sure that when you do speak, the gray button turns on and you'll see the red light and speak into it for our audience at home.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. Is that on? Okay, sure. Highway 34 is simply a truck gateway from the 401 to the 417, and the trucks are nonstop, and we would not be bringing any additional trucks that wouldn't actually be coming from the Cornwall Distribution Center to Alexandria right now. The only difference is they would stop at our warehouse where they used to stop in Green Valley before, as opposed to just drive all the way up. to Alexandria because the bypass only starts at the OPP station. So actually, they come up that way, and all the trucks that come off Ottawa also come right down Highway 34 as well. So they all pass right in front of that building every single day. So actually, our plan doesn't really increase any traffic at all when it comes to trucks. Our little store is simply a little offshoot. It's always a very small spot where people have always seen what we've done over the years. We supply fine art materials, canvases, and gifts, and party goods, and people have always wanted to purchase them from us. So we opened a little, tiny little spot. We're actually wholesalers and importers. We're not really retailers, but it's just a little place where the public can come and buy a few things. We have end of lines and samples, and people always just like to come in and look around and buy a few things, but we've never set it up to be a large retail store outlet by any means.
Thank you. Are there any questions around the council table at present from that? All right, I understand the audience member. So I think you'll have to come up and. Oh, well, it's more for the people online. We can't, it has to be public, and we are streaming on YouTube, so you have to speak into the microphone. So we'd have to either bring her a microphone, or if you don't mind.
She can use this microphone if you'd like. I can give her the chair and she can sit right there.
That'd be great. Thank you. And remember to state your name and address too, as a member of the public.
My name is Vivian Sege. My address is 4473 County Road 34 and not Highway 34. Highway 34 brings us to Hawkesbury and not Green Valley. So Mr. Lerman should learn his proper address, please. And we want to know how many distribution trucks are going to be coming there. I mean, we're a quiet zone. We're all seniors. We're not ready to have all of this noise going around in our area. We have enough of the gravel trucks that come up and down Concession 7, turning on to County Road 34 all the time. This is noise enough. We don't need any more noise in our quiet residential area.
Okay, and this is a public meeting, so we are taking this, and council will get information back from staff after the fact. So we are receiving these questions, and Ms. Haley is answering them. Do you have further comments?
Well, I would like her to read all of the comments that Linda sent in, because we met this afternoon on the phone. Her husband is ill. Another neighbor just come out of the hospital this morning. They're not able to attend, so they would like you to discuss all of it at this meeting, all of the questions that Linda sent in. Please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Lerman, we'll just invite you back to the table so you can speak to the mic, because there will be some questions here that we will ask you to answer to represent your company. Sure. So the first question that was asked for was, what is the proposed square footage for this initiative and further plans for expansion? So the proposed square footage is a 40,000 square foot warehouse. I don't know at this time if you have additional plans for expansion. Is that something that you have, Mr. Lerman? Or
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
Right now, 40,000 square feet seems to be it.
The next question is asking what person or corporation is funding these initiatives. So to be clear to the public, when initiatives like this happen, there is no dollars that come from the municipality or tax dollars that pay for any development or building or permits. That would all be borne by Mr. Lerman, the owner of the business.
Correct.
It is asking what will the hours of operation be for your facility?
Typically, we start at 8:30 in the morning and we quit at 5 p.m.
Okay, and does that include the retail store as well, sir?
We have not set any hours for the retail store yet, but usually we just open whenever we're open in our normal operation.
Okay, thank you. There's a question here that will there be adequate parking such that street parking is not involved? The answer to that is yes. We've reviewed parking and we believe that parking can be met. Also, there's not street parking permitted along County Road 34. So parking has to be located on the site. It's also asking if there are any noise restrictions at this property is adjacent to people's quiet backyards in a few cases. We do have a noise bylaw in place. The noise bylaw regulates this location, and noise is permitted to occur from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. in this location. It's asking if future hearings or public meetings could be held at the Green Valley Recreation Center. Typically, all of our public meetings are held in advance of a council meeting, which occur here at the Williamstown Arena, known as Tartan Hall. And so it's possible that council could choose to relocate public meetings, but that would be a very rare occasion and possibly when this facility is booked. It's also asking if there'll be flammable or dangerous chemicals products at this warehouse. So is that something you can answer, please, Mr. Lerman?
Yes, we don't sell any of those kind of goods whatsoever.
Okay, thank you. And so to add to that, when we allow buildings like this to be constructed and occupied, there is a review that's completed by our fire department, and then the fire department would also look at all non-residential structures and become aware of what's included or what's located on site if they ever had to do a fire response. Those were all the questions that were presented in the email, Mrs. Sege, and I apologize that I didn't read all those questions out as I had expected to answer them by email, but I will still follow up with an email answer. Thank you.
Councillor Jaworski?
Thank you, through you, Mayor McDonald. Mr. Lerman, I have a question, if you're able to elaborate on what would be the major difference or any significant difference between what you're proposing today to what used to be there back in the early 2000s?
It would be a state-of-the-art, brand-new structure as opposed to the old Willette lumber that had an A-frame barn, and it was probably about 12 buildings all put together by the time we bought it. This would be one solid, up-to-code, open, free-span building.
And now a question for Ms. Haley. With the zoning that's being requested, what, would fencing be required in a situation like this?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So no, fencing is not required. And the reason is because it's abutting a rural zone. So in our bylaw, we have requirements for fencing when it's a non-residential use abutting a residential zone. So that would be residential 1, 2, 3, or 4. In this case, we're surrounded all by a rural zone. And so it's not currently required in our bylaw. Maybe one other thing that I could add to for council's benefit. We have a site plan control bylaw, as you're aware. Our site plan control bylaw regulates certain sites. With this being a rural exception zone, it's not subject to the bylaw itself, but because when you're building non-residential buildings like this, it triggers other provincial requirements like stormwater management, grading and drainage, things like that. Mr. Lerman will be required to retain a professional engineering firm to prepare a site plan. We will then still result in going through a site plan approval process. We'll enter into an agreement and make sure that we're capturing all of the requirements that are required by the province, as well as the United Counties. You heard me say earlier this evening that we haven't received comments from them yet, but it is important to involve them in any of these discussions because they may have requirements for a wider entrance, how the truck turns, things like that. So we'll get those comments from them to see, to make sure that it can, they can meet the county requirements before we go too much further.
Thank you. Do you have any further questions that you wanted to be brought forward?
Yes.
Just click the gray button and then you'll see,
Apartments.
if you could, there's a gray button.
Okay, there are apartments on, right to the south of that, and there are children who play on that area. So how are they going to be protected?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the parcel of property to the south, as I mentioned earlier, I'll just show you a picture of it here. It happens to have multiple units inside that structure. It's kind of an L-shaped structure. That structure is a grandfathered structure. That type of use we would not allow in the rural zone today. There would be quite a few different requirements that would have to be completed if a proposed use like that was proposed today, because you're into septic review, parking, things like that. So there will be no additional requirements based on this development if it's approved, because that development is there. And to my knowledge, we didn't have any complaints years ago when the business was previously there, and that was also a multi-residential unit then in 2009 and prior.
It's just that we've had the cops there many times in the past, and I'm just afraid of accident, of those children running and there's trucks coming in. I'm afraid for those children's safety.
All right, is there further, or is that, does that
Well,
balance?
something will probably pop up again, but I'm thinking of those children.
Okay, and if something does come up, you can reach out to Mrs. Haley in, like after this meeting too,
Okay.
by phone or by email. Right. And Mr. Lerman, you've said everything that you are, like there's no additional information that you think we require to consider this or have staff consider?
I don't believe at this time. I think we presented everything at this point that we have. We're in the process of waiting for the rezoning, and we are looking at like Ms. Haley said, the engineering firms to do the stormwater management, and we started that whole process. And I believe we're having, my firms that we have, that we're looking at have contacted the South Glengarry office to just make sure that we follow full protocols and that we're doing everything in advance, just to understand what the process is, because when we owned the building 15, 20 years ago, things have changed. So we are just being proactive in learning everything that we are required to do, and I believe we've worked very well with Max and Ms. Haley just to get to this process. So thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I think when you say things have changed, I think the building code was that big and now it's 2 binders that big, if not more. So like a lot of regulation that may have not been there before. Are there any other members of public that wish to speak? I'm going to assume, I think, for the presentation you're with together and Max is back there. Okay. So we have received the comments and then we'll call to adjourn, a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor Jaworski, that we close at the call of the chair at 6:52 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. So thank you. Your comments will be taken and compiled, and staff will be back with a staff report at a future date.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, council.